What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. Huge, big old slate here tonight because American Thanksgiving is tomorrow. One game last night for no reason. They probably could have spread it out. The Stars absolutely just laid waste to the Oilers. Is the thumbnail in honor of our guy Frostback. I don't know who does the thumbnails, but they did put a duck up there, so maybe. Yeah, almost every team is in play here tonight. Dallas is on the slate, so they're the only one back-to-back, but I really just don't like these big slates from a DFS perspective. The one good thing about it is hopefully, unless like a chalk line goes absolutely nuclear, there will be multiple paths of victory. So joining me to break it down, Slim Cliffy, are you ready?
Yeah. I hate these 15-game slates. I usually do try to find like at least some positives in slates that I might not be so enamored with or whatever. But when you're single entry in a 15-gamer, you just put your lines in and like you just plan to lose. That's just kind of the way it goes. But we're here. We're going to go through all 15 games. Lots of news, lots to get through. So let's get to it.
Yep. And before we jump in there, we do have a weekly code for you guys since it's American Thanksgiving. And so we're going to give back to you. If you click the link in the chat, use promo code GRAVY, you can get 50% off any weekly DFS package. So click that link. You can do it for hockey. You can do it for NBA. You can do it for MMA. You can do it for football. Whatever you want to do, promo code GRAVY. It is not promo code hardwood, unfortunately. We can dream. A man can dream. But let's get into the slate since we do have 30 teams to talk about. Hopefully we don't talk about all 30 in depth because we will be here until the show on Friday. Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3.1 total heading into Columbus. Our Blue Jackets. 3.3 total. Kirill Marchenko still out. Looks like Austin Matthews, Matty Nyes, and Nicholas Roy will all be back for Toronto here tonight. We did not get lines from them. However, that's kind of unfortunate. They did, Olivier is out too for Columbus. They did practice yesterday, and the top line then was Tavares, Nylander, and Easton Cowan. So I would imagine that sticks together. And then Matthews, Nyes, and either like Domi or Robertson or Roy or one of those guys will be up with Matthews. We just don't know who it is yet. Columbus still going Fantilli, Voronkov, Chinnikov, Monahan, Johnson, Wood. And then, with Olivier out, it's Sillinger, Coyle, and somebody. I forget who it is. Maybe Isaac Lundestrom. I forget. So this game became a lot more interesting from this morning when we got the news Matthews and company are in. Obviously, it's a big boost to the team. It helps their power play. Their power play is still nowhere near what it was last year with Marner, but this is a very good power play spot. It's a pretty good 5-on-5 spot. I do like whoever plays with Matthews just from the fact that we have no idea. So that line's going to be a mystery, like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, until 6:30 p.m. Eastern, unless, the coach talks and gives definitive answers. Like, obviously, people are going to be waiting for the news, and they'll get ownership. But a lot of people already have their lineup set. Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, is a huge party night. So maybe not everybody's paying attention. So you can get them a little bit lower owned than you would really expect. So Matthews, Nyes, X is fine. I think if you want to turn into a power play stack, that's the problem though. It gets really expensive because Nylander and Tavares are more expensive than usual because Matthews has been out for a while. So like that power play stack is really expensive. But listen, like the Avs are on the slate of 23,000. So like, I'm not saying let's power play stack the Leafs instead of playing the Avs, but it's something you can do instead of playing the Avs in MME. You have your Avs, you want something else expensive, power play stack. The Leafs, I'm fine with Tavares, Nylander, Cowan. The problem is just the price, and they're not first line anymore, so I don't really know what their minutes are going to be. I'd probably just throw them into the MME overpriced bucket where like I think the ownership will go down just because they're super expensive and it's not a Matthews line, but I think Nylander one off is fine. So yeah, I'm in on Toronto power play stack, very expensive. On the Columbus side, I see 10% projected ownership on Fantilli, Voronkov, Chinnikov. I think that's fine just because they're 13,800. It's a 15-game slate with the Avs, right? So the Avs are over 23,000. I think there's another line in the 22Ks. So any line that's, going to get decent minutes, gets power play time in that price range is going to get ownership. And the Leafs are just bad defensively. They've had a rough go in net. Their penalty kill sucks. The one thing is, like we talked about it last slate, like they can't replace Marchenko. So that line's definitely taking a hit offensively. But for 13,800, you wouldn't need as much production as if Marchenko was there. So I don't mind going to Fantilli, Voronkov, Chinnikov. I think Monahan, Johnson, Wood is also fine. It's a fifth of the ownership. You're saving 1,800. You still get Monahan and Johnson on the top power play unit. Wood has been shooting the puck like crazy. So I don't mind Columbus too, but I prefer both top lines in this game.
Columbus too is my only interest on the Columbus side. Without Marchenko, Dmitry Voronkov's on-ice numbers at 5-on-5 are basically league average, and the Columbus doesn't have a good power play to begin with. So while it might be a good spot, this team is demonstrably worse offensively without Marchenko. So it's Columbus 2, Monahan, Johnson, Wood, 12K. That line's at 64 shot attempts, 3.4 expected goals per 60. At the upper end, Monahan might push like 18 minutes. They're a good filler stack. You get 2 out of the 3 on the top power play in case they do score. So Columbus 2. On the Toronto side, I do have interest in the Leafs. We'll have to see what their lineup is like because, as you mentioned, Nylander and Tavares got much more expensive in the absence of Austin Matthews. Like, even if you throw Easton Cowan on that line, there's some like that second line is over 19K with Easton Cowan on it. So for me, from the Toronto side, it would be probably just doing pairs like Matthews and Nyes or Tavares and Nylander. If you want to play Toronto too, I think that's probably fine. You get away from the Werenski pairing, you get to the depth of Columbus. Obviously, things are going to be a little bit more shallow with no Olivier and no Marchenko there. So I guess it's both second lines for me in this game. We'll talk about defensemen later. I think I might be in more on the defensemen than the forwards, but it would be both second lines, generally speaking. I'm more interested in the Toronto side, but like I said, it would probably just be pairing the expensive players.
New York Rangers, the 2.6 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.4. JT Miller, a game time decision. So, like, if Miller's in, I think that would reunite Panarin, Trocheck, Brodzinski, and then Miller would be with Zibanejad and Cooley. That would give me some interest in Trocheck, Panarin, Lafreniere. If JT Miller is out, I have no interest in the Rangers. On the Carolina side, I think, Carolina 1's fine. The problem is they're pushing 20K, and they're going to see a lot of the Fox pairing. So I think for me, I would go down to Ehlers, Stankoven, and Blake at 15.4. They're coming in at 1.4%. Like, Will Borgen's still out. And yes, you will be facing Igor Shesterkin. But once you get past the Fox pairing without Borgen, like the second and third pairs really aren't that intimidating. So for me, like Carolina's 2 offensive numbers are just as good as the top lines. Yeah, the power play correlation isn't great, but they play a ton of 5-on-5. So for me, it would be Carolina 2. If JT Miller's in, I would have interest in the Trocheck line. If he's out, I'm out on the Rangers.
I mean, I'm just out on the Rangers, like, period. Carolina's not the same team defensively at 5-on-5, but they still have a great PK. Maybe the Rangers can do something at 5-on-5 and get a goal or two. I don't know. The Rangers have had their trouble scoring. If this is, they don't draw very many power plays. They're at 2.2 power play opportunities per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the lowest rate in the league. So you're basically asking a line to get there all at 5-on-5. It's a pass for me. I'm going to be honest. I'm not really in on Carolina either, because the Rangers, whatever underlying metrics slide they've been on over the last 10, 15 games, and there has been one, a big part of it has been the Rangers penalty kill. The Rangers penalty kill has not been good. The only time it's actually been good is when Igor Shesterkin has really held down the fort. The problem is Carolina's power play has been just as bad as the New York penalty kill. I mentioned in our Discord this morning, Carolina has 9 power play goals this year. I think it's tied for last in the league. And it doesn't matter whether Gostisbehere has been on the top power play unit or not. The top power play unit, 8.3 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5. That's below league average. This is a Carolina power play that a couple of years ago was one of the best in the league, and now it's quite like bottom 5, bottom 6. Like, it's just not very good. So maybe they can get there. They get 1 power play goal, but like, that second line's not cheap. That's kind of what's holding me back here. Like, this isn't a line that's like 13,100, 15,400. That's expensive for a line where the guys are going to play 15 minutes, maybe 16 minutes, and have to face a really, really good team defensively at 5-on-5 plus Igor Shesterkin. I'm out on Carolina too. Like, I think it would be Carolina 1 for me, honestly, just because if the Carolina power play can manage to go like 2 for 3 or something like that, obviously the top line is going to get in on it. But like you said, they're going to face off against Fox and Gavrikov quite a bit. The Rangers, they have been taking more penalties. They're at 3.3 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. It's like 10% above the league average. So like, maybe Carolina could luck box a little bit on the power play, but it just honestly hasn't looked very good. So to be honest, I'm just kind of out on this game.
Nashville Predators, 2.7 total. Heading into Detroit, the Red Wings have a 3.3. Detroit going Larkin, Raymond, Finney. DeBrincat, Kane, Comfer. Nashville going Forsberg, O'Reilly, Evangelista. That's really the only line I'd have interest in Nashville anyway. This is a line right around the same price as Carolina 2, and I'd much rather play Nashville 1 here. Simon Edmondson's still out for Detroit. So, they're going to see the Seider pairing, but with Seider and Sherratt, they have not been good. So I think, obviously Nashville 1 has issues finishing. We all have from time to time, but you get O'Reilly and Forsberg on the top power play unit. They play a fair bit. They've been creating a ton. They've been very good from a possession standpoint. They're not super chalk here. They're 4.2% projected. I think Nashville 1 is in play for me for a mid-range stack. On the flip side, I know the Nashville penalty kill has been not terrible. Like, their defensive numbers at 5-on-5 have improved from last year. I think I would go to Detroit 1, and I think you can full stack them at 17.6. But if you do want to turn it into a power play, I think that's fine. I'd be more likely to do it with Kane than DeBrincat, because if you do it with Kane, that line becomes 19,600. If you do it with DeBrincat, that line becomes 22,000 even. He's 8K, which is insane. So I think Detroit 1 and Detroit power play. If you want to make it super expensive, use DeBrincat. If you want it cheaper, use Kane. I'm fine with both top lines in this game.
I'm out on Nashville. For me, they're one of the worst teams, lowest scoring teams in the league. This is a 30-team slate. Like, I'm just out on Nashville. Detroit, top line has been pretty good at 5-on-5 this year. 76 shot attempts, 3.6 expected goals per 60. Problem is they're shooting under 5%. You got to think that's going to turn around eventually. Larkin's getting 21 plus minutes a game. Even Lucas Raymond's been up close to like 20 minutes a game. Finney, 15, 16 minutes. That's fine for his price. And like Nashville's just not very good at 5-on-5. I think that Detroit top line should be able to at least get a little bit of run of the play here. But I agree with you. If you want to take out Finney and put in Kane, that's perfectly fine. Like the power play for Detroit, since Patrick Kane came back, over 10 goals and 10 expected goals per 60 on the power play. Like it's not elite, but it's really good. And Detroit has been drawing power play opportunities, 3.4 power play opportunities per game over the last 5 weeks. The league average in that span is like 2.93. So like they've been drawing quite a few more power plays. So if you want to take out Finney and put in Patrick Kane, I think that's fine. And like Kane, he's been shooting the puck quite a bit as well, right? He's played 9 games since he came back from injury. 3.5 shots per game in that span, a little over 3.5 shots per game in that span. So, one of the reasons why we played DeBrincat earlier was because he was shooting so much, and now it's Kane that's taking the shot. So if you want to take out Finney and put in Kane, it's still under 20K. It's still a really good 5-on-5 matchup, but Detroit 1 is my focus in this game.
Philadelphia Flyers, the 2.5 total. Heading into Florida, the Panthers have a 3.1. Florida going Marchand, Lundell, Samoskevich, Reinhart, Rodriguez, Bachwist, Verhaeghe, Bennett, Greer. Philadelphia going Zegras, Tippett, Dvorak, Konechny, Forrester, Cates, Couturier, Mitchkov, Brink. I don't have a ton of interest in the Flyers here. I will say the Cates, Forrester, Konechny line at 11.5, 2.2% projected going up against, probably Lundell. That line has been very high event. So I'm fine with Forrester, Cates, Konechny, and MME. For $900 more, you can go back to the Dvorak line. But I'm not running out to play the Flyers here if they get into your 150 mix. That's fine. On the Panthers side, it would be Marchand, Lundell, Samoskevich. I know they let a lot of people down last time, but they are fully correlate, or not fully correlated, but they are 16K coming in low owned. The one thing that does concern me is how good Philly has been at 5-on-5 and on the penalty kill. So this is probably an MME game for me. Yeah,
I don't have interest in Florida here. Philly is, like you said, really, really good at 5-on-5. Their penalty kill over the last 5 weeks, I think it's 5th fewest goals against per 60, 2nd fewest expected goals against per 60. This is not a team that's giving up a whole lot on the penalty kill. They're very stingy at 5-on-5, played with slow pace. I'm out on Florida. I think I agree with you. The only line I'd have real interest in is Konechny, Forster, and Cates. The reason for that is they're perfectly correlated on the power play. And that power play unit, 120 shot attempts, 13 expected goals per 60. That Cates, Forster, Zegras, whatever power play unit has been by far Philadelphia's better power play unit. And Florida does take their fair share of penalties, 3.4 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the 6th most in the league. The Flyers don't draw a ton of power plays, but with how well their power play is going, I don't mind that Konechny, Forster, Cates line as a filler. If you need to put them in with a Toronto stack or Colorado or whatever, I think that's basically the situation where I would use them. Other than that, I have no interest in this game.
Yeah, and the Bob has not been great this season. St. Louis Blues with a 2.6 total heading into New Jersey. The Devils have a 2.9. Devils going Bratt, Hischer, Meyer, Mercer, Grietzuk, Palat. Blues going Suter, Holloway, Kyrou, Thomas, Neighbors, Snuggerud, Buchnevich, Shen, Dvorsky. On the Devil side, it's really the top line here. It's a good 5-on-5 matchup. It's a very good power play matchup. They are fully correlated. 19,400 coming in with positive leverage. I have no issue at all with the Devils top line here. Their total is 2.9, but if they go over their total here, that top line is definitely going to be involved. So Devils 1 for me. On the St. Louis side, I think it would be Suter, Holloway, Kyrou at 12,700. That's really the only line of interest for me. I see people saying Dvorsky power play 1 for cheap for the Blues in chat. Devils generally have a very, very good penalty kill, and that 5-on-5 line just is not going to be great. Like Buchnevich has been terrible. So for me, it's Suter, Holloway, Kyrou. If you do want to go to Thomas Neighbors, Snuggerud, I guess it's fine, but I would want to avoid the Hischer line, and that is the Suter line.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. That Suter line, they haven't played a ton together yet this season. Suter, Kyrou, Holloway, just about 50 minutes, but they've been really, really good. Any line with Suter and Holloway has generally been St. Louis's best line so far this season. That specific line right now is at 65 shot attempts, 3.8 expected goals per 60. If you look at Holloway and Kyrou with Braden Shen, they're at 3.6 expected goals per 60. Like, these guys have been by far the best offensive players that St. Louis has had this season. And I'm not super concerned about the matchup from the New Jersey side of things, right? Like, this isn't a Devils team that's been great defensively. I was looking over their last 15 games, 15th in the league by expected goals against per 60 minutes, 23rd in the league by goals against per 60 minutes. Like, this is not a good defensive team. Like, they're fine, but it's nothing to really be super concerned about. And Suter, Holloway, Kyrou are basically filler price at 12,700. That is probably a good filler that I think to target here tonight, because it's, low ownership, obviously. Well, like almost every line is low ownership here tonight. But they should see some depth matchups from New Jersey. They, like I said, Kyrou and Holloway have been good regardless of which center that they've had this season. So that's my interest in this game. Kyrou, Holloway, Suter, 12,700. What I will say is just watch for warmups, because St. Louis did kind of fidget around their lines a little bit in their last game. It was that 3-2 loss. Maybe they changed things up. I don't think they changed this line, because they did keep them together, but just something to keep an eye out for.
Yep. Let's see if Jake said he's running ownership. Let's see if we get an update. Not yet, because this is a fairly important game from an ownership standpoint. The Boston Bruins, with a 2.7 total heading into Long Island. That sucks. The Islanders have a 3.3. Islanders going Horvat, Palmieri, Heineman, Barzal, Lee, Drouin. Boston going Pasternak, Zacha, Blumel, Geeky, Lindholm, Kuznetsov. There's a lot of ownership on the Barzal, Lee, Drouin line at the moment. 14K, 6.1% projected owner, top two. 17.2% projected ownership, and it's probably because they're going to see the middle six of the Bruins, which leaves a lot to be desired. What I will say is currently Horvat, Palmieri, Heineman at 15.8, coming in at 2%. I don't care that they're going to see the Boston one. Like, that Boston one line is not going to be great defensively either. I take the lower ownership for a little bit more expensive and go Horvat, Palmieri, Heineman. I think there's obviously merit to going to that Barzal line, but it's 17% when 30 teams are playing. I'm taking a pass on the Islanders chalk. David Pasternak one-off is really my interest on the Boston side.
The Boston Bruins have been taking a lot of penalties. The only team taking more penalties over the last 5 weeks than Boston has been Anaheim. The Bruins are at like 3.8 times shorthanded per game. And like the New York Islanders power play, it's not elite or like, at the top, near the top of the league or anything, but they're fine. And it sounds like a backhanded compliment, but it's not. Like you and I always said last year, like, imagine if this Islanders team just actually had a competent power play, how good they'd be offensively. And I think we've kind of seen that so far this year. I mean, Bo Horvat, like the guy, like he's slowed down a bit, but he still has 2 goals in his last 5 games. He's on pace for like close to a 50-goal season. So I don't mind the Islanders power play guys here. I really do have trouble clicking in Jonathan Drouin. Like I said, it's a good power play spot because of how many penalties the Bruins take. The Bruins don't aren't that good on the penalty kill either. Expected goals against on the penalty kill over the last 5 weeks is 24th in the league. They've been kind of saved by their goaltending. So if you want to do like a Horvat, Palmieri, Barzal stack or something like that, I think that's fine. Like Jonathan Drouin, he just doesn't really do a whole lot. He's under 1.5 shots per game. It's not like he's on pace for like 60 assists or something. He's on pace for like 40 assists, which is solid, but like 10 goals, 40 assists, and 1.2 shots per game. Like that's like Alex Wenberg territory. So like I think what I like best is a Barzal, Horvat, Palmieri stack. Like we know, like Horvat's at like he's good, averaging 3 shots per game. Palmieri is on pace for a 20 plus goal season. Matt Barzal is up near 3 shots per game over his last 10 games. It helps dilute that ownership because 2 out of the 3 guys that you would be stacking are on that low owned Horvat, Palmieri, Heineman line. And that line's like been pretty good. 3.1 expected goals, 64 shot attempts per 60. Palmieri playing 19 minutes, Horvat playing 20 plus. I think it's Barzal, Horvat, and Palmieri that I really do like from the Islanders side. And the Islanders are actually drawing power plays. That was another problem last year too, is they weren't drawing any power plays. They're basically league average, a little bit better in that regard over the last 5 weeks. And that's perfectly fine against a Bruins team that is amongst most penalized in the league. So some sort of Barzal, Horvat, Palmieri stack. If you want to add in Drouin, just go full power play. I think you can do that. But to me, like I said, Drouin, it's like maybe you get a couple of assists and a couple shots. I get once or twice a year he'll just break a slate with like 1 goal and 4 assists or something like that. That happens. I wouldn't bank on it every time I use them. So that's where I am on the Islanders. On the Bruins side, like it sucks because this is a really, really good matchup. But if you look at the numbers with Zacha and Pasternak together this year, they are just really bad. Pasternak, he hasn't scored in 5 straight, but he's still at 18 shots in his last 5 games, so he's still getting his shots off. You mentioned that Pasternak one off is fine. He has the highest projection of any winger on the board here tonight. Like it's not a bad matchup for Boston. Just don't think that they're a very good team. Like if you want to one off Pasternak, one off Geeky, those types of things, I think that's fine. But otherwise, I'm out on the Bruins.
Yeah, as insane as it sounds, I would have interest in Pasternak, Geeky, Lindholm if they were aligned, which was not a thing for me last year, but like the Islanders are really bad and Matt Schaefer really good now in the Olympic testing pool for Canada, which is crazy considering that in the 4 Nations, someone got hurt and they replaced that guy with Thomas Harley. Like that's how good Matty Schaefer's season has been. Buffalo Skinny Swords with a 3.1 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3.3. I just had an aneurysm there. Pittsburgh going, looks like Brian Rust is back in, and they're going Crosby, Rust, Connor Dewar, Mantha, Malkin, Hayes, Ben Kindle is out. So someone named Tristan Bros is on the 3rd line. Don't even know why I mentioned it. Thompson, Tuck, Doan, Zucker, Quinn, McLeod, Zach Benson's back on the 3rd line with Ostland and Kozak. As much as I would like to play Crosby and Rust here, like we talked about it on the other slate, anyone other than Connor Dewar, I would be in on Pittsburgh 1 here. Like literally anyone. But Connor Dewar's there dragging down the numbers. Like it's night and day. I'm out on Pittsburgh. Like if you want to do like a Malkin Mantha 2-man, I think that's fine. As a filler, you do whatever you want with Hayes, he's min-price. But for me, it would be Malkin Mantha. Buffalo, I do have interest in Thompson, Tuck, Doan. The problem is they're 19,400. They're starting to get a sample together. They're up to 60 minutes. It's very good. It's still a small sample, so take that for whatever it's worth. But, that Dewar line that they're going to see just really has not been great defensively. So for me, it would be Thompson, Tuck, Doan. I really want to play the Crosby line. If Dewar's not there, like if, they replace him with literally anybody, I would consider them. But for me, it's just Buffalo 1, Pitt 2.
Yeah. Crosby and Dewar up near 45 minutes together. 43 shot attempts, 2 expected goals, 4 per 60. Like Connor Dewar, like we were saying on the it was either Monday or Saturday, I guess. He's a fine defensive forward. He can't do anything offensively. He is just a black hole offensively. You can't drive very good offensive numbers. Like, anything can happen in a single game. They could knock a couple goals. Like, I think Dewar's scored one recently. Like, those things can happen. I'm not really banking on it. It feels bad to be out on a team that is facing the Buffalo Sabres. But I am out on a team that is facing the Buffalo Sabres. No Penguins for me. For me, the interest is on the Buffalo side. Now, what kind of sucks about this is that Pittsburgh has a pretty good penalty kill. It's not like we ever stack the Sabres for their power play prowess.
At least Doan is there, right?
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, the last 2 years or whatever, like, we never stacked the Sabres because of their power play ability. But over the last 5 weeks, Pittsburgh is fourth fewest shot attempts per 60 on the penalty kill, second fewest expected goals against per 60, second fewest shots against per 60, and fifth fewest goals against. They're just not giving up anything on the penalty kill. So I'm not super concerned about power play correlation here. As I say that, if you do want to make the top line cheaper, I think you can take off Tuck and just add in Benson. It knocks $1,500 off that price. All of a sudden, now they're down to $17,900. Zach Benson is a very, very, very good play driver, a very good playmaker. He's basically like Jonathan Drouin. I don't want to say he's like Jonathan Drouin. He has a similar DFS profile to Jonathan Drouin. In real life, he's a much better player. Whether they do anything at 5-on-5, who knows? But you can take off Tuck, put Benson back with Doan and Thompson, turn it more into a power play stack. They're under 18K. You mentioned how good that Buffalo top line has been. They're up near 60 minutes together, 76 shot attempts, 4 expected goals per 60. Tage Thompson has scored in 6 straight games, and he's averaging 4 shots per game in that span. Pittsburgh's been sneaky good defensively this year. I still don't trust their goaltending. For me, it'd be some sort of broken stack, like I said, with the Islanders. Here it would be Thompson, Doan, and Benson. They might just be a little bit too expensive for me to really be all in on. So, one-off Zucker, a one-off Doan. I think that's perfectly fine. But in general, Buffalo 1 is easily what I like best out of this game.
Before we move on to the next game, we have a $100 super chat from Chris Dumit. I think I know who you are. I know YouTube has changed everything, and it makes it much harder to realize who we're talking to. You have the Avi with the dog, and I always see you at the top of the Doom It, right? Yeah, always up at the top. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Thanks for everything, guys. Happy Turkey Day. Let's go Red Wings. You lost me there, but I do really appreciate the super chat. Does anyone actually like turkey? I much prefer turkey the next day. Leftover turkey, elite. Turkey in the moment, terrible. But thank you for the super chat. Hope to see you back up at the top. Looking up at JRH002 tonight.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the super chat, Chris. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Certainly appreciate the support. You know what? Montreal and Detroit aren't playing each other tonight. Detroit's playing Nashville. Certainly don't mind rooting for the Red Wings, but just for tonight. But that's a very generous super chat. We certainly appreciate it. Hope you have a good holiday. Hope you have a good night tonight. Thanks, man.
Let's go to the next one. Calgary Flames, 2.6 total. Heading into Tampa, the Lightning have a 3.3. Tampa going Kucherov, Hagel, Cirelli, Gensel, Paul, James. Bjorkstrand down on the fourth line, still with Finley and Gonsalves. Columbus. Calgary going Kadri, Farabee, Sharangovich, Coronado, Huberdeau, Frost, Coleman, Backlund, Zari. I really don't have interest in Calgary here tonight. If Coronado, Huberdeau, Frost get into your 150 mix, that's fine. Tampa's a little bit interesting here. Calgary is a very, very good defensive team at 5-on-5. By expected goals against, I think they actually might, per 60, they might actually be the best in the NHL through this part of the season. They're definitely top 3. Where you can beat them is on the power play. Now, it is Dustin Wolf, and after a really shaky start, he has been excellent. On top of that, the Tampa power play has been pretty mid, as the kids say. I will say I don't mind Cirelli, Hagel, Kucherov. They have won Jake back-to-back slates, and they will probably see a fair bit of Frost, Huberdeau, Coronado, which is their worst defensive line. But now they're up over 20K, and like once you get up over 20K, you have, Colorado, you have Winnipeg, and then you have just an unbelievable amount of lines from, 16 to 19. So I think you can ride that wave just because they've been great recently, but I don't think I'm going out of my way to play them in this matchup on a 15-game slate. Always fine with Kucherov one-off, so it would be Tampa 1, but that's more for 20 to 150 max.
Yeah. Speaking of very good penalty kills, the Tampa Bay Lightning have a pretty good penalty kill. A lot of that is Andrei Vasilevsky, but he's also a very good goalie. It seems like they've really figured things out defensively after the first couple weeks of the season where they look pretty shaky. So I'm just kind of out on the Flames. Just quickly, I mentioned in our Discord yesterday, like those types of lines between like 13 and 15K usually have been some of the worst performing lines this season. Like just generally speaking, I think a lot of it is because these are top lines on bad scoring teams. So they get a lot of minutes, but they don't do a whole lot with those minutes. That's kind of the issue with them. You think of Calgary, we talked about Philadelphia earlier, certainly falls in that category. I guess like Vancouver at times, like those types of things. So I don't know. I'm just kind of out on Calgary. I think Coronado or Kadri went off just because the shot volume is fine, but that's about it. On the Tampa side, like you're right about Dustin Wolf. He gave up 20 goals in his first 5 games of the season, so 4 goals against per game. He's given up 34 goals in his last 14 games, so like 2.5. He's been really, really good after the first couple of weeks of the season, basically. Now, Tampa Bay is good enough to shred anybody, and that top line is at 72 shot attempts at 4.7 expected goals per 60 together. They've been absolutely unreal. They did do that thing where Kucherov is playing both halves of the power play now. So even though they're not perfectly correlated on, quote, the top unit, they are perfectly correlated on the power play just because Kucherov will play the full 2 minutes. At 20,200, like I typically don't play lines over 20K on slates this big it's not like this is really a great spot. Like it's fine. I think I'm kind of with you. Like a one-off Hagel, even a one-off Gensel is fine. One-off Kucherov, certainly. I think that's kind of my only interest in this game. I really don't have interest in full stacking either side.
Winnipeg Jets with a 2.9 total. Heading into Washington, the Caps have a 3.5. It is Charlie Lindgren in net for the Caps, which does change some things. Winnipeg going Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Perfetti, I forget how to pronounce it, with Nemestikov and Pearson. Washington going Ovechkin, Strome, Beauvillier, Wilson, Protas, Sordif, McMichael, Leonard, Duhaime. Listen, like Connor Hellebuyck out for a few months or whatever it is, definitely going to affect this team. Like he is arguably the best goalie in the league. Won the Vezina last year. I do have some interest in Washington here. Yes, they have a full allotment of defensemen, but like this Caps team has been rolling offensively. And
I mean, Neil Pionk's out, but that might actually help Winnipeg.
I meant like basically I just meant Morrissey and Sandberg. After that, it doesn't really matter. I do like Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier at 16 too. If you want to make it a little bit $100 more expensive. Just swap Leonard for Beauvillier for a little extra power play. Honestly, like Sordif, Protas, and Wilson have been pretty damn good in their almost 60-minute sample at 12,405%. I don't particularly love the correlation of the line, but at that price, I think it's fine. But for me, I would go Strome, Ovechkin, Leonard if you don't want to leave Beauvillier there. The Winnipeg side just became more interesting because they don't have a very good penalty kill, and Winnipeg won our power play merchants. And Charlie Lindgren is a massive downgrade. As much as you can like Charlie Lindgren, and I do, the downgrade from Logan Thompson to Charlie Lindgren is one of the biggest in the NHL currently. The reason I like Winnipeg here, besides that, is they're coming in at 1% projected at 20,600. And it's not like they have an awful matchup at 5-on-5. Not that they do shit there anyway, but, Washington has been a pretty good defensive team, but it's a very good power play spot. So I don't mind Winnipeg 1 here. Now, going up over 20K, like, there's 3 lines. Winnipeg here, Tampa against the Flames, and then Colorado against the Sharks. So it's just like, in single entry, if I'm going to go up above 20K, like, it's probably going to be the Avs. But I think this is a lot better matchup than meets the eye at that ownership, just because the penalty kill is bad, and Charlie Lindgren has been pretty bad this season.
Yeah, I'll start on the Winnipeg side. This is a very interesting matchup, and it's one of the reasons why I don't really like Tampa here tonight. It's kind of funny to kind of like Winnipeg facing Washington instead of Tampa facing Calgary, but I kind of do.
Same.
You mentioned Washington at 5-on-5. Like, over their last 15 games, shot attempts against per 60, 10th in the league, expected goals against 15th. Like, they're not a bad defensive team at 5-on-5 by any stretch, but they're not good. They're not great or anything like that, right? Like, you're not facing Utah or Ottawa or something, or Los Angeles or something along those lines. Like, they're just not in that tier. Winnipeg at 5-on-5, I was looking at the top line over the last 10 games. They're still at 3 expected goals per 60 minutes. Top guys, Connor Scheifele still getting 20 plus minutes of ice time per game. The big thing is like, this is a great power play spot for Winnipeg. The Capitals, we mentioned it on Monday, but one of the most penalized teams in the league over the last 5 weeks, 3.5 times shorthanded per game. It's the 4th highest penalty rate in the league over the last 5 weeks. They've been in the top 10 all season. And we know how good the Winnipeg power play has been just generally all year. Now, I think the power play is shooting something like 35% since Cole Perfetti came back. Like, they're not going to keep up at 35% shooting. But we've seen them make it work, whether it's with Ehlers last year, or Iafallo, or with Perfetti. It doesn't matter who the fourth wheel forward is. The power play just keeps chugging along. So where the 5-on-5 matchup, I think, is fine for Winnipeg. It's not a disastrous one. It's fine. And where it's a great power play matchup for them, like, I much prefer Winnipeg over Tampa Bay here tonight, especially with Charlie Lindgren in net. Like, you're right, it is one of the biggest downgrades. So I'd rather play Winnipeg over Tampa, over Carolina, probably over Buffalo if you leave Alex Tuch there. Like, I think, we'll get to Colorado. Colorado's still the best line on the slate. I don't think it's particularly close, but I think the number 2 line is Winnipeg. It's just a matter if you want to pay up over 20K for them or not. But yeah, Winnipeg 1 for me, very much playable, especially in your MMEs. I would if you're 150 maxing or something, I would probably have a few of them. On the Washington side, it's funny because the downgrade from Hellebuck to Comrie, like, obviously it's a sizable downgrade, but I think that speaks to more how good Connor Hellebuck is rather than how bad or not bad Eric Comrie is. Because Eric Comrie, he's at like 1 goal saved above expected every 4 games, which is better than like at the top end of the backups. That's like low end starter territory. So it's not like he's awful or anything like that. But this Washington team, like, they just generate so well at 5-on-5, right? The top line, 3.4 expected goals per 60. That second line was Sordif, 80 shot attempts, 5.3 expected goals per 60. Ovechkin and Strome and Beauvillier, they've been getting a lot of bottom six matchups, especially when they're at home. Like, that's how Washington has been trying to use them. So that top line at 16,200, getting bottom six matchups against this Winnipeg team with Eric Comrie in net, I think is my interest here. If you want to drop down to the second line, they are a very solid filler. Wilson protests Sordif, Wilson on the top power play. Sordif certainly looks very good in between them. I think they're fine. But for me, this is a game about the top lines. It's just a matter if you want to spend over $20K for Winnipeg or drop down for a mid-price stack in Washington one.
Yep. And we just got an update that came through. Just wanted to update you. The Barzal line is still at 17%. So they didn't move. That's the one big chalk spot that I wanted to check. We have Matthews, Nyes, Robertson projected now, and that's coming in at 3.3% at 18,700. Thank you, Jake. Let's talk about the Minnesota Wild. Do we really? Yeah, I guess briefly. Minnesota Wild with a 2.9 total heading into Chicago. The Blackhawks have a 2.6. Minnesota going Boldy, Eriksson, Ek, Johansson, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Yurov. Chicago going Bedard, Burakovsky, Green, Nazar, Bertuzzi, Moore. Teuvo down on the third line with Soup and Dickinson. Both of these Minnesota lines are in the 17K range. And really, if I wanted to play Minnesota here, I would do some sort of power play stack, I think. And that's where it just gets expensive, because if you replace Yurov with Eriksson Ek, you're looking at 20,600, the same price as Winnipeg one. And I'd rather play Winnipeg one. If you replace Marcus Johansson with Kaprizov, you're looking at 22,900. And at that point, I'll just find the extra change in the couch to go play Colorado against the Sharks. So if you want to do a line, I think it would be the Yurov, Zuccarello, Kaprizov line. I want the best player on the ice, and that is Kaprizov. And I know Boldy has been great, don't get me wrong, but it would be the Kaprizov line. That's more MME for me. On the Chicago side, there's no ownership on them, probably for decent reason. But Minnesota penalty kill sucks, and Chicago actually has a decent power play. So I think Bedard, Burakovsky, take off Green, add in Bertuzzi or Teravainen is fine for an MME stack. Bedard has been ridiculous this season. Actually putting offensive skilled players around him made him better, which is a shock to everyone in the NHL. So it would be a Chicago power play stack for me. Minnesota power play is fine, but in single entry, it gets so expensive to the point where I'm just going to go play Colorado.
Yeah, it's one of those things, in a nutshell, I kind of like the Chicago side here.
Yeah.
The problem is Minnesota doesn't have a good penalty kill. That's completely right, but they don't take a lot of penalties. That's the problem for me. Over the last 5 weeks, 2.3 times shorthanded per game is the third lowest rate in the league. Only St. Louis and Columbus taking fewer penalties. So even with the Minnesota penalty kill being 78% in that span, they're only giving up one power play goal against every 2 games. So, it's just tough for me to get there, because Minnesota's defensive improvements at 5-on-5 have been a real thing over the last month. That's one of the reasons why, their record has improved. Certainly the goaltenders have been a lot better, but Minnesota's certainly has been starting to improve their 5-on-5 play, which is something that we've wanted to see from them, because they generally do have one of the better defensive teams year after year. This was a team at the bottom of the league defensively by expected goals against through their first 15 games or whatever. over the last 10 games, they've gone up to the middle of the league. It's like not great, but certainly not nearly as bad as they were. And they're not taking a lot of penalties. So that's why, like, I don't mind Chicago generally. I just think with all of Minnesota's improvements at 5-on-5 and how few penalties they take, I'm just out on the Blackhawks. If this was an 8-game slate, I think I would have way more interest. With 30 teams on the board, I'm just kind of out. The Minnesota side is pretty tough as well. And it's because it's a tale of two teams for Chicago, because at 5-on-5, they're not that good defensively. They've really been bailed out by Spencer Knight this season. Chicago has the 4th worst expected goals against per 60 over their last 10 games in the NHL. But Chicago does have a very good penalty kill. That's the one issue. Goals against per game, or per 60 minutes, top 10 in the league over the last 5 weeks. Shot attempts against, 6th best in the league on the penalty kill. The Minnesota power play has been very inconsistent, I think, to put it mildly, this season. There's been times where they've been world beaters. There's been times where they look like the Calgary Flames. So I think for me, the only thing I really like in this game is some one-offs. One-off Kaprizov is always in play. I don't mind a one-off Boldy, honestly. They're going to avoid the top pair for Chicago. He shoots just as much as anybody. He's going to get nearly as much ice. He's going to get more ice time than probably any winger except for Kaprizov. So I don't mind a one-off Boldy. So I think that's it for me out of this game. Some one-off of the top-end guys from Minnesota. I don't think I'm stacking anything. It's a 5.5 total on a 15-game slate.
San Jose Sharks with a 2.2 total. I'm out. Heading into Colorado, the Avs have a 3.8. Colorado going McKinnon, Netchis, Lehkonen, Nelson, Landeskog, Colton. San Jose going Celebrini, Eklund, Smith. They're 18,700 in arguably the worst matchup in the NHL. If you're 150 maxing and you want to manually add 1 or 2 in because you have FOMO, Jake, you can, but I'm out on the Sharks. This is a Colorado power play game. For me, 23,400 is really, really expensive. I guess you're not going to be sneaky here because people are going to do it. If you leave off Lehkonen and add in Landeskog, you save $2,500, becomes 20,900. Or maybe they do it with Netchis, but Netchis is going to be the lowest owned of the 3. So if you're worried about ownership, I leave Netchis in there. I'd probably just straight up leave Colorado 1. And that's how I would do it. You have to find a way to get comfortable. It's just if you want to spend the 23,400, they're the best line on the slate. There's nothing else to say about it. Landeskog one off or add him into a stack. I think going Colorado 1 plus Landeskog is the way I would go. 3,800 will help bring down the cost of, well, maybe not, but it will help. You don't have to go play Matt Rempe and Juuso Parssinen as your other guys. So Colorado 1, Colorado power play, out on the Sharks.
Yeah, Colorado's probably the best defensive team in the league. This is a 30-team slate. I'm out on San Jose. Interesting, just to talk about the Sharks briefly, though. I was looking over their last 15 games, 13th in the league by expected goals against. They're better than Utah, Washington, Philly, New Jersey. Those are solid defensive numbers. And I had a thread about this on Blue Sky yesterday about stylistic changes teams have made this season. The San Jose Sharks are generating less off the rush compared to last year than any other team in the NHL, and it's honestly not even close. That might seem like a bad thing, but when you're playing off the rush, you're prone to turnovers and getting caught up ice and things like that. It leads to 2-on-1s, 3-on-2. Just think of the Philadelphia Flyers under Tortorella, where when the puck was in their defensive zone, they were good defensively, but they turned over the puck so much off the rush that they were leaving Urson and whomever else hung out to dry on 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, 4-on-2s, things like that. The Sharks aren't doing that anymore. They're generating a lot more off the cycle, a lot less off the rush, and it's making them better defensively. They're not a great defensive team, and the penalty kill still sucks, but this is definitely not the defensive, black hole that they were last year. They're fine. Colorado's good enough to shred anybody, but over 23K on a 30-team slate, it gives me a little bit of pause. I think McKinnon one-off is always in play. He's projected for nearly 3 DK points than any other player on the board here tonight. Quite literally, he's at 19.57. Pasternak's at 16.64, so over 2.9 points higher than the next closest guy. So a McKinnon one-off is fine. If you want to pair him with Landeskog in case the power play gets there, I think that's doable as well. But I'm just not somebody that pays over 23,000 for a line on a slate this big. I just think there are just way too many other good spots. There's just too high of a likelihood that 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5 other lines completely go off at a much more reasonable price range. McKinnon one-off, like a McKinnon Landeskog 2-man, I think that's something fine. That's basically where my interest is in here. I'm not saying Colorado's a bad play. Like, obviously, they have the highest top 2 stack on the board, and it's not even close. I just don't pay up for a line that expensive on a slate this big.
I think, just to piggyback your point there, let's say they even go above and beyond and they have 105 DK points here tonight. That's great. But then you have to find a secondary line that's going to do it with them, right? And then you're going to have probably cheap defensemen that you need to get bonuses. And then you need a goalie to perform, right? So, them scoring 110 points is great. But because it's such a massive slate, the chances in single entry of you hitting that filler line is just a little bit difficult. Now, again, I agree. They're the best line on the board by a mile. And if you happen to like your lineup, you play them. But I'm kind of on board with Cliffy here. I'm not going to spend almost, 40% of my salary on one line here tonight when there's unbelievable teams and unbelievable spots. So, speaking of unbelievable teams and unbelievable spots, the Avs are one of them. But again, price does matter here. Montreal Canadiens with a 3 total. Heading into Utah, the Soakers have a 3.4. Montreal going, excuse me, Caulfield, Suzuki, Bolduc, Slavkovsky, Demidov, Kapanen. Utah going Keller, Schmaltz, Hayton, Cooley, Genther, Yamamoto. I do like Utah 1 here, and it's not for the reason you think it's going to be. They're 15,500, 1.5% projected ownership. Small sample. Suzuki, Caulfield, Bolduc have not been very good defensively compared to when Slavkovsky's up there. It's a good power play matchup, but the problem is the Utah power play has been fucking terrible. Pardon my douche, my German. They have less power play goals this season than the Flyers. But at 15,500, I think this is an advantageous 5-on-5 matchup. They've been good this season. They've been good over seasons as long as Hayton is healthy. They are fully correlated still, which counts for something. So it would be Utah 1 for me. You want to go chase points with Cooley after his dick trick and an assist, go ahead. But for me, it's Utah 1. On the Montreal side, I know they have a 3 total here. But this is Utah is one of the better 5-on-5 teams in the NHL. If it was Slavkovsky up there for 18K, I would have some interest. But with Bolduc up there and the top line being 18K, I'm probably out on them. If you want to go to Slavkovsky, Demidov, Kapanen for 11.4, I think they're fine as a filler. But for me, it's Utah 1.
I was really trying to figure out why Montreal had a 3 total here tonight. When I looked at that seemed pretty high to me. And I'm sitting here in my Habs jersey with my Habs hat on. I don't know. That seems pretty high. And considering the top line with Bolduc there is still 18K, it's not like, there's any sort of discount here. 46 minutes, for Caulfield and Suzuki without Slavkovsky on the top line this season. 84 shot attempts against per 60 at 5-on-5. Over the last 2 years without Slavkovsky, 320 minutes, 3.3 expected goals against per 60. I don't know. It seems like a pretty good matchup to me for the Utah top line. It's not like their power play has been good, but the Montreal has been taking a lot of penalties, and that's a problem. They're at 3.8 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. Third most in the league behind only Anaheim and Boston. That, like, Utah could see a lot of power plays here tonight. I'm going to be honest, I don't hate the idea of a power play stack. Like, a power play stack on a slate this big is kind of nerve-wracking because you really need all 5 guys to smash. But, I think the Utah top line is in a really, really good 5-on-5 matchup. Like, Dylan Guenther, even with less ice time and being moved all around the second and third lines, he still has 17 shots over his last 5 games. Those guys are all pretty reasonably priced, so it's not a prohibitive power play stack. And the Montreal penalty kill is not that good on top of that. Like, the best you can say is they're average. They're probably below average, depending on which metric that you look at. So it's a really good special teams matchup for Utah. So I think if you just want to play the top line, considering their 1.5% projected ownership, I think that's perfectly fine. That would be the 5-on-5 line I would stack, but I have no problem throwing Guenther in there with them, just making a full power play. I think you can take out Schmaltz and just put in Guenther if you want, because Keller and Guenther are typically the shooters. I know Schmaltz went on a heater earlier this season. He does that every year. But it's some sort of Utah power play stack that I like best here. I am so far out on Montreal in this game. If that line was top line was 15,900, it would be a conversation. At 18K, with how poorly that top line has been playing without Slavkovsky, I'll go play Buffalo, I'll go play Toronto, I'll go play Detroit, any of the Dallas lines, Carolina. Like, there's just so many other lines I would rather play. So, if you want to one-off Caulfield because he shoots the puck, if you want to one-off Demidov, like, those types of things are okay, but I'm mostly out on Montreal.
Super Bowl 23 for Frostback. Vancouver Canucks with a 3 total heading into Anaheim. Like, honestly, that high key sucks. The Ducks have a 3.6 total, highest on the board besides Colorado. Anaheim going Gauthier, Carlson, Seneca, Terry, Kreider, McTavish. Vancouver going Pettersson, Kane, DeBrusk, Garland, Besser, Kampf. It's like, I would have interest in that second line if they if Hedl was healthy. That is a line I would absolutely be in on here tonight. But David Kampf, have they had a shot for?
I know we have 15 games to get through, but it's so funny they traded for Lucas Reichel, a guy that I still think has the skill to play in the NHL, but who legitimately has some of the worst results in the league of any player over like the last 3 years. Stick him as the second line center. It blows up. Then they go and get David Kampf, who has also had amongst the worst results for any forward in the league over the last 3 years. They're like, now you're the second line center. It's like that scene in Varsity Blues where John Boy's like, fucking Tweeter, you're taking the snaps. Like, he's just looking for anybody to play the position. It's like, this is how you're running an NHL team?
Like,
oh my God, they're so bad.
I would even consider it if it was Atu Rati.
I would too.
But David Kampf, I think since he's been there, they've been outshot. The numbers are astronomical. So I guess by default it'll be Pettersson, Kane, DeBrusk, but they're 17.5. And that's into a price range where I'm just not going to play the Canucks on a 15-game slate. So I guess by default, I'm out on the Canucks. The Duck side is obviously more interesting. There's a lot of ownership on them, though. Carlson, Gauthier, Seneca, 15,600, 7.2% top 2, 14.6% projected ownership. The second line of McTavish, Kreider, Terry, 2.8% top 2, 7.6% projected ownership. Now, it's Yuri Patera for Vancouver or worse. I want a power play stack here, but I also want Cutter Gauthier in there. And I don't want to take Seneca off the stack because he's 3,200, right? So what I think you can do is go Anaheim 1 and add in Kreider. Because if the power play is going to do work here tonight, Kreider is going to be involved. You have a 4-man stack there. It's not the worst thing in the world because you're kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face if you take off Seneca or Gauthier. So I would probably go Anaheim 1 plus Kreider. That's probably how I would combat the ownership while getting both Gauthier and the cheapest power play guy in the stack. If you just want to go straight Anaheim 1, Anaheim 2, like that's fine because there's tons of low-owned lines here tonight. But for me, I want that extra power play in there, and I think Kreider is that important guy. So I'd go Anaheim 1 plus Kreider.
Just to keep bagging on David Camp for a second.
He's not over it. He's not over it.
Over the last 3 seasons, he's one of 15 forwards in the league to be amongst the 10th percentile or worse by play driving and goal driving amongst all regular forwards. Like he's literally one of like the worst 15 players in the league. Like we're talking like Luke Cunnin, Philip Kurashev territory. It is brutal. And to go from Lucas Reichel to that, it's, oh my God, man, I have no idea what they're doing. Yeah, this is a great matchup, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play for Anaheim. Vancouver, I don't think it's any kind of secret, one of the worst penalty kills in the league. Whether it's the goaltending or the penalty kill, potato, tomato, doesn't really matter to me. All that matters is that they're giving up a ton of goals. Vancouver's taking their fair share of penalties. They're around league average. Anaheim's, a little bit better than league average at drawing power plays. If I play a 5-on-5 line, I'll probably go to Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlsson, Beckett, Seneca. And the reason is that I don't trust a line with Mason McTavish on it. I know it seems like he's been out of the doghouse lately. He's the type of player who can go right back in with one bad period. And it's not like there's a lot of shot volume behind Mason McTavish either. It's not like this is a guy when he's in the lineup, he's averaging 3.2 shots per game or something like that. Like he's just not shooting. So if I play any 5-on-5 line from the Duck side, it's Gauthier, Carlsson, Seneca. I was looking at Cutter and Carlsson together this season, 75 minutes, 73 shot attempts per 60. Carlsson playing like 21 minutes. Cutter's up around 18 minutes. So even though Cutter's not on the power play with them, he puts up so much shot volume and plays good minutes that I'm perfectly fine just playing Anaheim 1, but I would probably turn it into some sort of power play stack. And I agree with you. I would just add in Kreider or add in Terry and just kind of go about my day. Vancouver's one of the worst, arguably the worst defensive team in the league. Like I said, the penalty kill has been awful. By expected goals against over the last 15 games, they're dead last in the league, 4th most actual goals against. It's just a great matchup for Anaheim. It's just a matter of how you want to stack them. Like I said, I would probably just take the top line and then add in one of Terry or Kreider and be on my way. So I'm far more in on the Anaheim side. The Vancouver side, it's not a bad matchup for the top Canucks guys. Anaheim doesn't have a good penalty kill either. They're not great at 5-on-5. Lucas Dostal is not playing. So there are reasons to kind of like Vancouver 1 here. Pettersson, Kane, DeBrusk. For all the defensive issues, Pettersson and Kane this season, 170 minutes together, 64 shot attempts, 3 expected goals per 60. You get Pettersson and DeBrusk on the top power play unit. At 17,500, they're probably a little bit more expensive than I'd want to pay. And there are lines in that range that I would rather play here tonight. I would rather play the Boldy line from Minnesota. I would rather play Detroit 1. I'd rather pay the extra $1,000 and just go play the Matthews line, assuming Nick Robertson is there. So there are just other lines I want to play. I don't dislike the Vancouver top line outright here. It's just, I think there are 3 or 4 lines in that price range I'd rather play. So for me, this is much more of an Anaheim game. I really do like that top line. Like you said, just add in one of Terry or Kreider and be on your way.
Where is the best place to get shot data and expected goals? I use naturalstattrick.com. There's a bunch, but I find that one the most reliable.
Yeah, Natural Stat Trick and moneypuck.com are the 2 that are freely available. Also shout out Evolving Hockey. That one requires a subscription, but there's a lot more to it than the free sites as well. So those are the three that I would use for. I mean, the two free ones if you don't want to pay, if you don't mind paying a subscription in Evolving Hockey for sure.
Frost back in the chat tilting. He wishes the power play was those 5 guys. He's going to be playing those 5 guys plus the other power play guy anyway. So it's like, I don't even know what he's complaining about. He is just straight up Josh stacking the Ducks here tonight. Dallas Stars with a 2.9 total heading into Seattle. The Kraken have a 2.6. Mikko Rantanen back in the lineup after being suspended. He's with Wyatt Johnson, Jamie Benn. Robertson, Hintz, Sagan. Seattle going Eberle, Beniers, Marchment, Schwartz, Tolvin, and Stevenson. McCann, Wright, Catton out on Seattle. I'm just not playing Seattle. I don't have to give a reason. I hate them. Dallas, the only team back-to-back here, back-to-back on the road. Rantanen's fresh here. I mean, they absolutely just laid waste effortlessly to Edmonton last night. I think I would go to the Rantanen Johnson Ben line here. 18-8 for Robertson, Hintz, Sagan. I'd rather save the 1,400 considering that they are fairly healthy, so the minutes aren't insane now. I take the 1,400 savings and go about my day, but don't particularly love this game for single entry.
The problem with this game is like it's not really that good of a 5-on-5 matchup for Dallas, right? One, they're not scoring well that 5-on-5 anyway as a team. That's one thing that's kind of gone undernoticed with how they've been otherwise is like, you know, they're shooting like 13-14% at 5-on-5, something that will decline. They're not generating a whole lot. It's the power play that's the problem here. You know, Seattle doesn't really have that good of a penalty kill. Over the last 5 weeks, they're giving up the 7th most shot attempts against per 60, 4th most goals against per 60, and Dallas has been the league's best power play team. Dallas, I mean, listen, Thanksgiving is tomorrow, and Dallas is going one way or another is going into the Thanksgiving break with more power play goals than games played. Like, it is absolutely preposterous how good the power play has been, and it is a great power play matchup for them. The problem is they're all super expensive, right? Like, if you actually can power play stack them, and then you punt your goalie and you got like $2,600 left for your other 3 skater slots, like per slot, like it's really hard to do it. So I think if I were to play Dallas here tonight, I would probably go to the Robertson, Hintz, Sagan line. And the reason I do that is Jason Robertson. You know, he's at 44 shots on goal over his last 10 games, 4.4 shots per game. This guy's around 4 shots per game on the season. The line has been good with Sagan, 58 shot attempts for, 50 against per 60. You know, they don't get a ton of ice time. You don't really need a ton of ice time when your power play is going so well. It would be the Robertson, Hintz, Sagan line that I've the most interested in this game. Generally speaking, it's the Dallas power play guys because this is a good power play spot. I could say with a relative amount of confidence I'm not going to be stacking either side here, just because I don't think Dallas is that good at 5-on-5, and I don't want to have to rely on the power play like scoring 2 or 3 times here tonight.
Yep. Last game of the night, Ottawa Senators with a 2.5 total heading into Vegas. The Golden Knights have a 3.1. We have a good news, bad news situation for the Golden Knights here tonight. The good news, Mark Stone is back and on power play 1. The good news, this is a very good power play matchup. The bad news, these 5-on-5 lines are wildly awful. Eichel, Barbashev, Bowman, Hurdle, Dorofeyev, Saad, and then Howden in between Stone and Marner. Ottawa going Stützle, Batherson, Perron, Pinto, Giroux, Amadio. I think if I'm playing the Vegas here, I'm just going to play Stone, Marner, take off Howden, and put in Eichel, or just straight up power play stack. This isn't a very good 5-on-5 matchup, but it's an excellent power play spot. And Cliffy's talked about it so much that you are about to know what I'm saying. The power play with Stone is so much better than when he's not there. So I would do just some sort of 3 to 5 man power play stack and call it a day there. I'm out on the Sens.
Yeah, I'm definitely not playing Ottawa tonight. Like, this is a good power play spot for Vegas. Two problems here. One, Ottawa is not taking a ton of penalties. 2.5 times short error per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the 5th lowest rate in the league. The other is Ottawa is great at 5-on-5 defensively. Legitimately one of the best in the league all season. Over their last 15 games, the best in the league by expected goals against per 60. Actual goals against top 10, and that's even with the goaltending being shaky. This is a very bad 5-on-5 matchup for Vegas. Saad was good on that second line last year. They moved him up this year because that line wasn't going well with him. I don't know how a Marner, Howden, Stone line is going to play. And then the Vegas top,
you do.
I got an idea. And then the Vegas top line, now that Bowman's off the power play, only has one guy on the top power play unit on it. So on the Vegas side, I think an Eichel one-off is fine. You want a one-off, like one of the wingers like Stone or Dorofeev or Marner or whatever. I think that's okay as well. But where it's such a bad 5-on-5 matchup, it's kind of like Dallas, right? Like, you have to get probably 2 power play goals out of Vegas here tonight in order for them to really have a chance of smashing. So with how few penalties that the Sens have been taking, how good they are at 5-on-5, like I'm just kind of out on both sides and just hope that this ends up a 2-1 or 3-1 game.
Yeah, I'll be sleeping regardless, but yeah. Hopefully. Anyway, let's talk about defensemen 6K and up. We have Makar, Werenski, Hughes, Dahlin, Yossi, Morrissey, Chikrin, Carlson, Miro Heiskanen, and Adam Fox. I think they're listed as 1, 2, 3. Makar, Werenski, Hughes. This is an unbelievable spot for Cale Makar. And I will say, right, if the Avs start blowing the Sharks out, like, Makar will still get, maybe he won't play 30 minutes, you know what I mean? But he'll still play 23-ish, you know what I mean? So I do really like Makar here. I do really like Werenski, even though, Marchenko's out. Like, I think that he's going to have to play a ton and shoot the puck a bunch. Quinn Hughes is also in a good spot. Like, while I don't like the Vancouver Lions, I do like Quinn Hughes. The other night in a 5-2 loss, he played 30 minutes and 5 seconds. It wasn't like that game went to overtime. And if Vancouver is going to if Vancouver wins this game, Quinn Hughes is going to be heavily involved. Jacob Chikrin, like, listen, I know people are like, oh, he's got to stop at some point. Yeah, maybe the goals stop going in, but he's still live for assists on the power play. He's still live for a combo meal. He's not going to score 2 goals every night, but his peripherals are excellent. So I do really like Chikrin again. I think I would go Makar 1, Werenski 2, Hughes 3, Chikrin 4, and Josh Morrissey 5.
Yeah, amongst the expensive defensemen, Werenski is the top projected by nearly a full point above Cale Makar. Of the guys 6K and up, Werenski has the best point per dollar value. Feels like if Columbus really does smash Toronto here tonight, Werenski's going to be the reason why. Because without Marchenko out, like, he's always kind of is the engine of the offense. Now he really is the focal point of the offense. So I think Werenski is fine. I'd rather play him than Makar. Makar's in a good, decent spot as well. I think your Quinn Hughes point is kind of where I'm at as well. Like, I don't like the Vancouver forwards, but Hughes is playing a ton. And I looked at, since he came back, 9 games since he came back from injury, 14 points, 3.8 shots per game. And he's even blocking 1.6 per game as well. Like, he's even adding in some shot blocks. Which is not something that he did last year. He's over a shot block per game this season. He was under a shot block per game last year. So there's very good peripherals. I really do like Quinn Hughes 6K and above. Also shout out Rasmus Dahlin. I know he wasn't great to start the season. Obviously, there was that thing with his fiance where he had to leave. Maybe that affected him somewhat. I will also say just his goal participation numbers were unsustainably low. And I think that'll just keep climbing as the season wears on. So I don't mind Dahlin as well. In the mid-price range, I should also add in Jacob Chychrun. The thing with Chychrun as well is he's at 3.2 shots per game or something like that so far this season. It's not like he's just his shooting percentage is 10%, which, maybe it's a bit high, but it's not like he's riding a 17% shooting over a small sample for a defenseman. He's putting up a ton of shots. So Chychrun is fine. If you want to save some money, go down to Carlson. I think that's okay as well. Matthew Schaefer, I think, makes a lot of sense from the Islanders in that price range. Mikhail Sergachev, like I said, I think Utah is live for a power play stack here, so he's in. Lacombe is under 5K, so I certainly don't mind him. Darren Radish, I think Radish leads them in Tampa Bay in ice time per game over the last 5 games. So it's not like this is the Darren Radish of years past where when he was power play 1 and he would play 14 minutes. He's power play 1 and playing 23 minutes. So Radish certainly. Brandon Montour's under 5K now. Not that I generally love Seattle here tonight, but Montour puts up good peripherals. He's a good combo meal type of guy for under 5K. Under 4K, Sean Durzi looks like he's back for Utah here tonight. He is priced down to 3K even. He's probably going to be their number 2 defenseman. So I certainly don't mind Durzi. Dylan Sandberg, without Pionk in the lineup, Sandberg is probably going to get the second most ice time of the Winnipeg defensemen. Devin Taves, if you don't want to play it for Makar, I think Taves is fine. Esa Lindell getting 23 minutes a game, 24 minutes a game with Thomas Harley out. Philip Hronik is getting 23 to 24 minutes a game. Next, speaking of double defensemen, we talk about that with Chychrun and Carlson. I think you can do that with Hughes and Hronik, to be honest. Matthias Samuelsson for Buffalo, he looks like the guy he was 2 or 3 years ago. Not the guy that he's largely been since. JJ Mosier, number 2 defenseman for Tampa Bay, still playing 22, 23 minutes, blocking shots. Nikita Zadorov getting a lot of minutes for Boston without Charlie McAvoy. Under 3K, Alex Petrovic, Andrew Peak, Rasmus Sandin are the 3 guys that I'm looking at.
Let's talk about some goalies here. Once again, don't really like the top range. I will say if Vasilevsky does get confirmed, he is fine. It's just 8,400. It's a weird price to click in for me, but Calgary just, lots of quantity, not lots of quality. Then going down, I think, after that, I think Philip Gustafson at 7,900 makes some sense. Don't even mind Casey DeSmith at 7,800. Joey Decourt, both goalies in the Dallas-Seattle game, I think are in play. And then going down, if you want to play Spencer Knight as well, he's been great. The one that just sticks out to me, and you can call me a homer, I don't care, is Igor Shesterkin at 7,100 against Carolina. If the Rangers win, it will certainly be on the back of Igor Shesterkin, not on the back of Johnny Brzezinski. That's really about it. I think Comrie is okay at 7,300. Dan Vladar at 7K is also in play for me. Florida's a high shot volume team. Vladar has been great. That's about as low as I would go. I guess, if it is Yuri Patera, he's min price. But, I don't know, man. I don't really want to play Askarov or Patera here tonight, but I guess if you are jamming in Colorado and you want min price and take you hope he gets 4 to 9 DK points or something. But really, I think in the low range, it's Igor. Mid-range, it's the goalies from the Dallas game and the goalies in the Minnesota game and spending up Vasilevsky.
Yeah, with the stochastic projections, the top 2 goalies that are kind of in their own tier are Mackenzie Blackwood and Andre Vasilevsky, both around 14 DK projected points. Akir Schmid, the next closest at 12.2. So I think Blackwood or Vasilevsky, if you have the salary, those guys make perfect sense here. Especially Vasilevsky facing Calgary again. They're turning into the Carolina. They're like the Carolina Hurricanes of 6 years ago, where they would put up a ton of shots and never score. Like that's just kind of Calgary now. So Blackwood and Vasilevsky makes sense. Casey DeSmith, I think perfectly fine. A little under 8K. For the cheaper goalies, like Spencer Knight really sticks out to me. Not a bad home matchup against Minnesota, especially where the Minnesota power play has been very inconsistent. If they don't really fill the net at 5-on-5, I think Knight could have a good night. I didn't mean to do that here tonight. Oh my God, so many times in one sentence. Linus Ullmark on the road for Ottawa. He's been a lot better lately. I know he doesn't see a ton of shot volume, but like you said with Igor, like Igor will have to have a good game in order for the Rangers to win. I feel the same thing about Ullmark. Like this isn't a game where we wake up and this sends 1-7-5. If they win this game, it's 3-1 or 4-2 or something like that, and Ullmark has a good game. So I don't mind Ullmark at 7,100, and then Igor. So Knight, Ullmark, and Igor are the three cheap goalies I like here tonight.
Yeah, Winnington season. No,
I don't think so.
Yeah. We will be back on Friday. We just have to see what DraftKings is doing with the slate, and then we'll let you know what time. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
Even though I do like Spencer Knight in net tonight, I'm going to go to the other side of that game, and I'm going to go Matthew Boldy.
I would enjoy that. So many games, so many options. Let's get a little spicy here. Going Matt Barzal.
Cool. I like it.
Of course, Frostback says Beckett Seneca. That is the homer of homer takes, but we will see you on Friday. For all of our American viewers, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. If you're in Canada, happy Thursday, and we will see you on Friday.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll talk to you then.